Welcome to the Transportation Committee of Atlanta City Council. I'm City Council Member Byron Amos, Chair. I'd like to officially call the meeting to order. To my far left have Council Member Wan, Council Member Dozier, and to my immediate right, Council Member Faroki. Make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The agenda has been adopted.
Thank you. Make a motion to approve the minutes. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The minutes have been approved.
Thank you. Next, that moves us into our public comment. We have 3 minutes, as I remind everyone to keep your comments focused toward the committee. We have one person signed up, Mr. Tim Penny. Yes, sir, you want to approach the mic and make your comments?
I have a timer here. Do I press this button, sir? Or, I don't know if you can hear me.
They will.
The green is on. Okay. Chairman Amos, members of the committee, thank you. I'm here to address my concerns with hearing assistance at Hartsfield, Jackson, Atlanta International Airport. And just for convenience, I'll call it the airport. That's okay. I'm a 71-year-old retired IT professional, and I have a severe hearing loss, and I hear very little that I can understand when I'm at the airport, anywhere, terminal, gates, ticketing, no matter where it is. Speech and noise is almost impossible for someone with a hearing loss to decipher. What I have found is that in my experience, the accessibility services for hearing disabled are limited and near impossible to find. If you go out on the airport's own website, I challenge you to find any information about what a person like me can do to get hearing assistance at the airport. It's practically non-existent, and I worked in IT my entire career. I have learned a lot in the last couple of days from both Ms. Karen Ellis and Angela Bowers, and that's helping me a lot, and I appreciate that. Some facts: 15% of Americans have a hearing loss, of adult Americans, 18 and older. And as we know, as you age, it gets worse. I'm over 70, 50% of people over 70 have hearing loss. If 15% of Americans, adults, have a hearing loss, and if my figures are right about Hartsfield having 108 million people going through the airport last year, that means 16 million people that went through the airport have a hearing loss. That's a big target. We're all familiar with what the ADA says about covered entities like the airport being responsible for providing effective communications to people with hearing loss. And it's not that nothing has been done. I think more should be done. Much more should be done. Hartsfield-Jackson, the airport, is the busiest airport in the world. There are other airports in this country, Minneapolis-St. Paul, Rochester International, who have gone to great lengths with hearing loops and other assistance for people who are traveling. And I think Hartsfield can do the same thing. The airport can do more. So I'm very interested in learning more about what the plans are from the Transportation Committee and the City of Atlanta as to what's going to happen to enhance hearing assistance at the airport, what plans are in place or what's being talked about, what money might be set aside for it. I think this is something that the world's best airport really should be doing, make it even more premier. I thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you, Mr. Penning, for bringing that to our attention. You, the customers who we strive every day to reach your expectations, and being the busiest, most efficient, world busiest airport, it's those little things that count. You are speaking directly to the Transportation Committee and also to the leadership of the airport. I sound like you're already talking to someone out there, but if there's someone else that you need to be speaking with, I'm pretty sure they will put you in contact with them. So thank you. That brings us to the end of our public comments. Next on the agenda is presentations, but before we do that, speaking of the airport, I would like, and committee, if we could take communications first, because we have our general manager here and we want to make sure he is free to get back to the airport to work on Mr. Penning's request. So if we could, can we go ahead and take communications? And as we're preparing for that, we have been joined by our President Shipman, and also by Vice Chair Marcy Collier Overstreet, and our other, Antonio Councilmember Lewis. So communications, please.
Section G, Communications, item number 1, 25C0057, a communication from Mayor Andre Dickens appointing Mr. Ricky Smith to serve as the Aviation General Manager for the City of Atlanta.
I believe Mr. Smith is in the audience. Sir, if you again would come up, I know you was here at the last committee. Just introduce yourself. Well, actually, yeah. I see she stepped out of the corner. Madam COO, Ms. Burgess.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, President of Council Shipman, and members of the Transportation Committee. It's an honor to stand before you today. LaShondra Burks, Chief Operating Officer, and on behalf of Mayor Andre Dickens, I'm here today to, many of you have already met, if not all of you, but so pretty much to present to you the Mayor's recommendation for the new General Manager of the Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. Mr. Ricky Smith started with us on April 2nd. Prior to coming to Atlanta, he was the Executive Director and CEO of Maryland Aviation Administration, where he was responsible for the management and operations of Baltimore-Washington International Thurgood Marshall Airport, Martin State Airport, and regional aviation activities throughout the state of Maryland. You've heard the mayor say that this is a great time for Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport as we look for a dynamic leader to drive the continued growth we have seen over the past few years. And again, as I presented to some of you the other day, we have another person with 30 years of aviation experience prior to coming to Atlanta. And just as I told a joke the other day, I have one on Mr. Smith. Prior to us starting the interview process, I was at a conference and I gave remarks, and he gave remarks before me. And during his remarks, he said, and I, want to introduce somebody from Atlanta. They say that that is the world's busiest and most efficient airport in the world. He said, I think that's what they say about it. And so when I got up to give my remarks, I asked all the people from Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport to stand, and they did. And I said, these people will be watching you for the entire conference. And hence, here we are today. So I am honored to present to you all the recommendation from the mayor, Mr. Ricky Smith, as the next general manager for the Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, the world's busiest and most efficient airport. And as we have been talking over the last few weeks, and even during our interview process, we talked about wanting Atlanta to also be the most resilient airport. And so I present to you Mr. Ricky Smith.
morning. Thank you, Madam COO. I am still running from those individuals that you sicked on me. Part of the honor and the pleasure in this role is working with the COO. She's an amazing leader, and I appreciate all the wise counsel and guidance you've given me. First of all, I just want to thank the council for considering and joining the mayor in this honor. I mean, it is truly an honor to be able to serve in this role, and the confidence that the mayor is showing by appointing me to this role, I hope it is shared by the entire city council. I've met with most of you, not all of you, and I want to appreciate the sound advice and counsel that I've gotten from you all as well. I am truly committed to this role. When I talk to the team, we talk about finding next level, and so we're looking forward to working with city council and the administration to make sure that Hartsfield-Jackson continues to be the world's busiest and most efficient and soon most resilient airport in the world. And so thank you for your consideration. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Any committee members have any comments, concerns, questions? Ms. Lewis.
I just want to say I had the pleasure of sitting with you a few weeks ago, and I'm extremely encouraged about your experience and about your dreams for Hartsfield International Airport. So extremely excited to work with you. I can only imagine what you're going to do because you started at the bottom. When you talk about how you got involved in airports, I was inspired by that story in particular. And so I look forward to seeing how we move forward, and I move approval.
Motion has been made and second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. Item is favorable.
Thank you, sir. This communication will move forward to Committee on Council and to council itself. Staff will be in touch about the next steps for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you know I try to run a tight ship, but a right ship as well. This young man was walking in at started public comment, so technically he was in the room when public comment started. I allowed him to sign in. So we have one more speaker, Reverend Timothy Fleming. If you would approach the mic, you will have your 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Council. I'm Pastor Timothy Fleming. I have been the pastor of Mount Carmel Baptist Church for 50 years. We are one of the largest congregations on Campbellton Road. Some 5-6 years ago, your staff and we all met at our church to discuss the situation about the $300 million money allocated for the development of Campbellton Road. As I represent the Greenbrier and Campbellton Road Merchant Association, and Mount Carmel Baptist Church has host all town hall meetings at our facilities, though we were out for 3 years because of a tornado storm that hit our church. We just went back into our sanctuary last 3 weeks ago. The community has always approached me for speaking on their behalf. We are getting a lot of complaints about MARTA making its commitment and promises about the development of the transit system on Campbellton Road. I speak for our people, and when they're frustrated, I'm frustrated. I have talked to the mayor, I have called assistants, and I've been told come before you. We have seen no activities. We have had many meetings at the library, at our church with your people, saying we are on it. What they're frustrated about, nothing has happened. The people paid their honest money and taxes for the development of Campbellton Road. We are upset. Nobody has met. I'm finna call another town hall meeting with the community. We want some answers. Why hasn't somebody come out to show us some development in the last 5 years? It's all on Facebook. You got a copy of it. Your board met with our church. We had the largest city council representative ever in the city of Atlanta. The whole city council was there. And we have not seen anything. on Camilton Road, showing us in the development. We've had meetings with you all, and they're saying we're working on a program. They did not give us a transit system we asked for, so we're waiting on some response. I come to represent our church and our community. We want some answers. And what is ours, we want it. And I'm not, as their pastor and leader, that I've been the pastor of this church all these years, I'm going to be quiet. So I want to let you all know we want to meet with you all again, give us some response. We have not seen anything happening on Camilton Road. That's my reason for being here today.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
That brings us to the official end of our public comment period. We're back to F, which is presentations, and that would be the Metropolitan Atlanta Transit Authority.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Chair Amos, Vice Chair Overstreet, and members of the Transportation Committee. My name is Collie Greenwood, General Manager and CEO of MARTA, and we're pleased to have this opportunity to give you an update on what's been going on in this past quarter. This title page here says it all, but the bus shown here is really a bus that was used to escort students from the Best Academy to the Read Across Atlanta Day celebration on March 7th at HE Home Station. We'll say more about that later, but I just want to thank Council Members Dozier, Collins, and Bond for being in attendance that day. And if we could get the advancer to advance. There we go, thank you. So the agenda shows as usual, we're going to start with ridership and go through the other business leading up to other news. Next slide, please. Under ridership, next slide. We've got the typical graph that shows year-over-year improvement. You'll see that there was a dip between October and January, and if you look along the continuum of the x-axis, you'll see that that is typical during the holiday season. Also, though, you'll notice in January 2025, there was a big dip, and that was a serious impact to our ridership. But if you'll remember, January 2025, we had some weather emergencies declared through the state. We had no bus service for a couple of days. We had limited rail service, so ridership really took a hit there. But we are encouraged by the return that's obvious in the tail end of that chart. We're also encouraged by the diminishing gap between bus and rail ridership there. We had some concerns earlier in the process, and you can see where the rail ridership started to dip much lower than the bus ridership. And what happened, in fact, was we were giving, the ridership was there, we were collecting the money, people were paying for their Breeze cards, and the taps were coming off, but the taps, because of a thumb drive, essentially, flaw in the aging equipment, was not reporting, wasn't holding that data. So our technicians would go there, try to fix the problem. They would remove the thumb drive, fix or replace it, plug it back in, but they wouldn't download the information on the thumb drive so that we could report that NTD data for the tap. So in fact, the ridership was happening, but we weren't able to report it to the NTD. Our contractor has since issued a push and has fixed that issue, so you can start to see, we were hoping to see those lines come back together, and we've started to see that. So we're happy with that. On to the next slide. I'm sorry, this is not advancing on its own, so I'll just keep saying next slide. So this proposed budget, next slide, please. So here, we just, last Friday on May 9th, we submitted our FY26 budget to the MARTA board, and the priorities on this budget were quite simply based on our desire to be a transit system that is safe, clean, and reliable. So for all the things that we're involved with, when it comes time to set your budgets and your priorities, we identified as a C-suite that safe, clean, and reliable was going to be our North Star and our guiding light, and we built our budgets in respect of that. We held a public hearing on the proposed operating and capital budgets yesterday. That was May 13th in person at MARTA HQ and virtually. And tomorrow we'll hold another one at the Riverdale Town Center. You'll note that there's no expected reduction in planned service delivery, for starters. And there have been cuts in expenses in places that were less central to our North Star of safe, clean, and reliable. We've got increased expenditures on safety and cleanliness initiatives, And there are some cuts that result in reduction to planned administrative staffing levels, most of which, though, were vacant positions. Next slide, please. This is more of a numerical table representation of the graph that you just saw, but you'll see on the upper right-hand corner, the FY26 service levels, no reduction in service, and in fact, in some cases, a modest increase in planned service levels. And in the bottom right corner, you'll see our operating highlights, which really clings into the safe, clean, and reliable mantra. So in terms of safety, you'll find there's budgeted police pay increases and pay scale compression for our police force. That's enabling us to recruit, to retain, and to actually return some police officers that had previously left the MPD ranks. We're delivering a new fare gate system that's aimed at reducing fare evasion and also controlling access to the system in a much more robust format. We're increasing police presence and technology in order to better support our major events like the World Cup. Cleanliness investments include additional support for cleaning along all the rail corridors and the facilities and continued rehabilitation of our rail stations. And of course, when it comes to reliability, there's just so many investments like the next generation bus network, supporting improved rail headways that have started as recently as December of last year, or started in December of last year and have happened as recently as April of this year, where we've improved our rail headways in the core, in the trunk, from 6 minutes to 5 minutes during the week and 6 minutes during the weekend, during the off-peak seasons. We're also supporting an improved contract with the mobility services, and of course we're supporting delivery of those new CQ400 rail cars as well as new buses and Track Renovation 5, which is our next round of improvements to our way system, our track and signaling system. Next slide, please. This is the capital budget highlights. In the next fiscal year, we have a proposed budget of $561 million for capital. That includes the top spend projects listed in the bottom right. These are projects as listed there, plus continued rail station rehabilitation to complete projects like Five Points, the platform levels, Indian Creek, and Airport Station. There's the GASB, which is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. It's a federal requirement that really tells us that leases and subscription software are to be tracked as a capital expense, so that's why you see that there. And we also include proposed capital expenditures of $148 million for Moore MARTA and $26 million for Moore MARTA Clayton. So Moore MARTA Atlanta, 148, 26 for Moore MARTA Clayton. Over to the next slide. This is the anticipated FY26 spending for each of the City of Atlanta capital projects. This is not reflective of recent remarks by the mayor and his staff to make changes to the approved sequencing plan. When those changes are made official, then you will see that reflected. When the request is formalized, we will adjust our budgets at that time. The top project for FY26 will be the Rapid A, which is the Summerhill project, as construction nears completion. So the value of that project to complete is included here, pending approval of the PGC. Next you'll see is Five Points transformation. That'll start mobilization and deconstruction in June. So this month we'll start mobilization. You'll see activity out at 5 Points shortly, and deconstruction demolition you'll see in June. The Cleveland Metropolitan project bid also hits the street today, so that's exciting news to see progress going on there. And Campbellton Road will progress this fall en route to final design. Over to the next slide. And again, please. Thank you. So this is the quarterly, you get this report quarterly, and it's a snapshot of the total expenditures for each Moore MARTA project, broken down by project phase. And it's done through March 31st of this year. We spent $51 million in the first 3 quarters of FY25, with total expenditures to date on capital projects at $151.7 million. Top spends on projects include Summerhill at $60 million to date. Progress is around 64% there through completion and construction. 5 Points transformation is at $28 million to date, nearing completion of the final design phase. And Campbellton Corridor at $8.6 million as we work to complete the NEPA documentation and enter final design for that project this fall. You'll also notice that we're diligently working to finalize real estate transactions on Summer Hill and continue to secure rights of entry on the Cleveland Metropolitan Project. On the next slide. Thank you. This slide provides an overview of the total project budgets and schedules as approved by the PGC in that moment in time for the Tier 1 projects. Notable changes to this slide include the pending increase to the project budget for Summer Hill, and that awaits PGC approval, as well as a note with respect to a pending hold on the Streetcar East project, as well as an updated date for completion of the Cleveland Metropolitan Project, which will be addressed in upcoming PMT and PGC meetings. More on the next slide. Thank you. So this is the Cleveland Met ART project. It's the first arterial rapid transit project in the Moore-Marta portfolio, as you know, and it's something that we're very proud of extending and moving through as quickly as we can. It was originally put out to bid in late 2023. At that time, it drew only one proposal, and that one bidder, the price was exorbitantly high. We couldn't move forward with that. So what we did was we partnered with the City of Atlanta. They had 3 or 4 different construction bid packages that we could combine and make it more attractive and competitive for bidders. So that's what we did, and per ATL DOT, the city's bid packages are expected to be delivered by the end of July 2025. So that'll be incorporated by addendum, and we are targeting to get under construction this fall and be in revenue service by 2028. Next slide, please. So this is the Rapid A line. You don't need a picture to know that something's happening. All you have to do is drive outside and you'll see the construction underway. We're pleased with this. It's along the entire corridor. Engagement continues through our dedicated rapid response team. They make regular calls and remain actively engaged with key stakeholders, businesses, and community groups throughout the corridor. Now, as work continues, we continue to encounter conditions and issues that were not anticipated. That includes some extremely shallow utilities in the southern section of Hank Aaron, which need to be resolved. Utility supply lines should be about 48 inches below the surface, and at the 36-inch mark, you should have a warning stripe that says, you know, you're approaching a utility line, so that if you're digging, you can stop. But what we're finding is not 48 inches down. Some of these are as shallow as 3 inches below the road surface. So clearly, we have to stop. We have to deal with this and correct the problem. We also discovered a parking garage that was not on our drawings beneath the sidewalk in the downtown loop, and some abandoned trolley tracks that also need to be addressed. So MARTA's working with stakeholders to resolve all these issues as quickly as possible. That includes getting approval from the PGC to move forward with change order work. The MARTA board has already approved this, contingent on the PGC approval. And so we've been granted through the MARTA board, the ability to increase the contract ceiling in order to keep negotiating and keep the construction moving forward without delay. We also have a proposed block-by-block detour plan as we work on the shallow utility work, and that'll be between Ormond Street and the Carver Station, and that's scheduled for the early summer, this summer. We continue to coordinate with utility partners like Atlanta Gas Light, Georgia Power, and the Department of Watershed Management to find an appropriate time to begin work. Takes procurement schedules, weather, and project timelines into account. And once we get started, the work will be completed in concurrent phases and is expected to last for about 7 months. Next slide, please. Just a closer look at these challenges. You'll see what we're starting to uncover. It's about 100 years of city infrastructure, much of which didn't appear on any maps or surveys. So our team has found several issues with unmarked utilities, water mains, gas lines, fiber optic cables, signal cabling, animal remains that at first we weren't sure whether they were human or animal, so that took some time to discern, and an underground vault. Shallow water lines, including residential service lines, need to be resolved along Hank Aaron Drive. And you can see some of these water lines in the photos at the top of the slide. The Department of Watershed Management performed all of the design work for the replacement of the service lines and an increase to the water main sizing in the southern section of Hank Aaron. The Department of Watershed Management then sent the design to MARTA, asking us to implement construction. So this is the largest impact to the proposed cost and schedule of this project. Next slide, please. So the project cost changes are listed here. You can see that the amount and complexity of these issues uncovered is exceeding our estimates. So design, planning, soft costs, training, system testing, right-of-way acquisitions, new bus costs, et cetera, are all taken into account as we move through. So this is the standard cost categories. It's SCC is a federally requested format that we've put this chart in, but in the end, it means that there's $30.3 million that we need to negotiate. So we're seeking a ceiling of $30.3 million from which to negotiate with the construction and contractors to move this project forward. Next slide, please. Simply put, the project modification request. So again, we presented this request to our PCP committee, and the PCP agreed to move it to the board. The board did approve, and we are waiting to move forward. Next slide. Despite all that, what MARTA's decided to do is go with a phased service rollout because we still think that we can get a portion of this ready in time for the World Cup. So phase one provides service from Summerhill Station's northbound to the entire south downtown loop. We're targeting an April 2026 service start for this section in time for the World Cup. Phase two is Ormond, Peoplestown, and Carver stations, and we target revenue service there for September of 2026. This segment is where the shallow utilities most impact the schedule. Next slide, please. Here's Clifton Corridor. As you know, this is an excellent project, provides a public transit solution to the severe congestion that Atlanta commuters face regularly when they're traveling to and from education and economic centers near Emory and Decatur. It's unique from our other BRT projects as it runs parallel to CSX's railroad corridor, and that'll enable us to provide fast, frequent, and reliable service unobstructed from traffic along Clifton Road. But because this is an unprecedented project in the region, there are a lot of moving parts, and our team is working through them. While we're at 15% design plans, in light of the conversation around infill stations, we have been talking about reconfiguring the northern terminus, which is presently slated for Lindbergh Center, and we're now considering the feasibility of a terminus at Armour Yard. So environmental work is ongoing in the area outside of CSX, as there were several prerequisite steps we needed to take before engaging the railroad. But the good news is that we've drafted the required term sheet, and we're at the point now where we're moments away from issuing the term sheet to CSX, which will enable the beginning of those negotiations. We've also fully engaged a consultant, R.L. Banks, with strong national expertise, working with CSX in these types of railroad corridors. And so they will be working on our behalf with CSX and with us to advance environmental work, community engagement, and the right-of-way acquisition. So that was a critical step in the FTA's approval to move that environmental work, and now that has been cleared. Next slide, please. So here's the Campbellton corridor. The team will continue to execute meaningful public engagement along the corridor. The team had planned to have a leaders roundtable on May 21st. To my knowledge, that date has been rescheduled, and we'll update you with the new date. But there it is. The team is making plans to share an outreach toolkit with stakeholders so they can better reach their networks and project the information. In June, members of the team will host a pop-up at Oakland City Station to distribute high-level information about project and to residents and riders of Route 83. The project has an active solicitation for a final design consultant, and we expect to make a selection to present to the MARTA board by the midsummer. So we continue to progress NEPA special studies and anticipate full submission for NEPA class of action in June. Next slide, please. When it comes to 5 points, as of May 1st, we have all the permits required, the ones that we have applied for, and work has started. So that means that our construction teams are ready to break ground. They're maintaining pedestrian access to the station. There might be some necessary bus detours, but our public engagement and operations teams are finalizing those plans. This Saturday, May 17th, we'll begin transformation with bus route detours. In addition, we will have the following rail service impacts. We'll have street level access maintained on Forsyth Street. Elevators at the street and platform levels will remain open. Rail service and rail transfers are unchanged, and this project will not affect rail schedules, but single tracking may be required for other MARTA projects. Of course, there'll be some night closures of the entrance in order to make the those crane moves in a safe manner. And on June 6th, we will relocate MARTA PD, the Ride Store, the Lost and Found, and the Reduced Fare and MARTA Hope to Ashby Station. Next slide, please. And once again, next slide. Yep, so we're going to start talking about station rehab. This is the 5-point station rehabilitation, so this is everything that's going on downstairs. Moving well in that regard, where the high ceilings, the painting, the sound panels, the concrete block installations, all of that continues. Tile work continues on the east-west platforms, and crews are installing lighting, conduit, and painting those ceilings and soffits. Next slide. When it comes to Airport Station, again, work continues. We finally moved off of the platform and into the airport with the installation of the new Ride Store. So work continues on elevator number 2, and I'm happy to report that escalator 1, the rehab work, will be completed this weekend. So we'll have that escalator up and running again. The team is installing wiring, fixtures, and components in the Ride Store, data communications room on the concourse level, and the installation of the new operator's restroom at the south end of the platform. All of this is progressing, so you can see there the pictures with self-evident titles in terms of what's going on. And I'll just stop here for a second to say there are 111 elevators in the MARTA system and 116 escalators, so 227 VCUs, vertical circulation units, all told. And the teams managed to keep those running and available in excess of 98% of the time. These escalators run 24/7, and it's just important that we're able to maintain these and refurbish them in time for major events like the World Cup. Over to the next slide, we'll talk about East Lake Station. We've got updates on the South Pedestrian Bridge replacement. That first image shows the beginning of installation of the single-ply membrane on the new South Bridge roof. The second image shows the vendor installing the new roofing on the bridge, preparing it for installation on the south side. And of course, the third image, our new elevator entrance has been installed and opened on the north side. So this makes our north parking lot fully compliant with ADA requirements. Next slide, please. Community engagement, while we complete various projects, we also continue to engage with our communities. So I wanted to highlight some of this. This first one is the one I referenced at the outset, which is partnering with Page Turners, Make Great Learners, and the local community nonprofit that we have partnered with since 2018. They honored Read Across Atlanta Day. This program celebrates students and their achievements while promoting reading awareness. It's an annual citywide celebration of reading and storytelling, and in these photos you can see the students from Best Academy were treated to a ride on our MARTA story bus for a pop-up book fair and received free books to take home, recognizing their achievement of logging over 400,000 reading hours. So thank you, council members Dozier, Collins, and Bond for attending the event and for pouring into these young students. Next slide is our District 4 and District 12 recognition. So on Friday, April 18th, Councilmember Lewis hosted a chat and chew in his district, District 12, for the Lakewood Christian Manor Senior Center. So I wanted to thank him for having MARTA out to meet and answer questions of his constituents. And on Saturday, May 3rd, our Human Resources team supported Councilmember Dozier's District 4 Youth Job Fair, a phenomenal turnout with over 150 students. Congratulations, Councilmember Dozier, and we look forward to more partnering in the future. Next slide. This is Streets Alive. This event is presented by ATL DOT with support from Propel ATL, another good community event that allows each corridor of the city to be highlighted. So MARTA was out there on the 27th, and we will also be on site this Sunday, May 18th, for the Grant Park West End Community Fest. And next slide, please. With community engagement, we partnered with the Atlanta Housing Authority for a farmers market resource fair for seniors. And the MARTA team shared information about the reduced fare program, mobility services, and sharing ride guides and details on upcoming public hearings. Next slide, please. In other news, MARTA was successful in winning the American Marketing Association Award. This is for our work with MARTA Celebrates Civil Rights, where we did a series of bus wraps throughout the city and featured a number of our civil rights icons. And on the next slide, we had World Cup preparation briefing hosted by Fulton County. That was on April 23rd, where we had a multi-jurisdictional briefing on FIFA World Cup preparation. And I'm pleased to announce that MARTA will absolutely be ready to serve the world when World Cup comes around. In fact, we're already working on the Club World Cup, where we'll run extra trains before and after all 5 matches this year, and we'll be more than ready for the 8 FIFA World Cup matches in 2026. Next slide, please. So finally, this Moore MARTA cost allocation assessment timeline. As the chart shows, there have been a couple of interpretations of the bus service and how it should be allocated. So the chart will tell you that Malden and Jenkins started in June 2023. When they completed in August 2024, we next contacted KPMG to perform the analysis of that. KPMG finished in February of 25. On March of 2025, KPMG presented its conclusions to the MARTA board, and in March of 25, the MARTA board set up an ad hoc committee to review both cost allocation methodologies. So the ad hoc committee met in April of this year, and we anticipate further ad hoc committee review and discussion. And next slide. Chair Amos, I'll return the floor to you.
Thank you, sir. I only see one speaker. I think that will grow. But Councilmember Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and CEO Greenwood. Always good to see you. First, just want to say thank you to the team for coming out to our District 4 Youth Job Fair. I think y'all had one of the more popular booths at the fair, and it's just always great to see y'all are engaging as best as possible. I know we're trying to get more bus operators, we're trying to get more rail operators, and I know y'all are offering great careers, and I want to make sure our office can continue to support that work. My first question, just going back to the Summerhill, or I keep wanting to say Summerhill BRT, for the Summerhill Rapid project, did I understand your slide correctly that revenue service for the portion north of Georgia Avenue will begin before World Cup? Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for that. The next question that I had was, I know I've talked about this on and off with you and your team. TODs, I know 2-3 years ago, MARTA reissued or restarted the process to gather community input to issue a new RFP for the Oakland City MARTA station for TOD there. And I know there's been off and on conversations about potentially doing a TOD at West End MARTA station with that northern parking lot that has been underutilized. And I know there's typically construction equipment stored there. So on Oakland City, is there any progress on the reissuing that RFP? And then on West End, especially with the Mall West End redevelopment that is moving forward, and with a lot of the work that the city is doing with regards to moving Atlanta forward for both Route David Abernathy and Lee Street, have y'all considered reissuing or pushing forward with a TOD project at West End as well?
In both of those locations, we are looking at what we can do next. It's as part of an overall TOD strategy assignment. So we've got some new people in the TOD space working at MARTA. Those 2 locations are part of the review, and we will update you as soon as we have more to share.
Okay, thank you. And just to put a coda on that, with a lot of the concerns that we're seeing nationally and internationally with regards to tariffs, cost of labor, ability for the private sector to have they're going to have some challenges delivering on a lot of projects. I know a lot of these private PPPs,
P3s, yeah.
P3s, I know those are going to be hugely important to be able to get some projects off the ground. So I just want to make sure that we can see what we can.
We couldn't agree more. Thank you.
Thank you. And then to talk a little bit about buses, I will admit that I know with the chart that you showed as far as ridership for buses and for rail and the divergence of their, I don't ride the train as much as I used to, but I ride the bus a lot. My neighborhood has 4 MARTA bus lines currently, and so I'm just trying to not put my biases with the redesign and which routes are getting cut and that sort of stuff too forward in this conversation, because I recognize that they are my biases, and there's a reason why y'all went through this process. I will say I do have concerns about the loss of east-west connectivity along Route David Abernathy and Georgia Avenue. That's currently served by the 832. Our communities fought for the 832 for that reason, because you don't have currently, you have a significant amount of low-income housing that doesn't get connected to West End MARTA Station, and doesn't get connected to the redevelopment that's happening in Summer Hill. When you think about connectivity to the Rapid Line along Hank Aaron, it's just a huge loss. And I recognize that both the 40 and the 832 are going away. The 40 was providing the other east-west connectivity from West End to Mechanicsville, but just want to put my thumb on the scale where I can and see if y'all can revisit just that corridor and whether or not it makes sense to completely cut out both transit lines there. I've had community members also concerned about the loss of number 3 along MLK. I know it's connecting from Ashby towards the west of MLK versus taking you all the way downtown. But there's an opportunity to have some bus service in that MLK corridor. MLK is now part of the Georgia Main Streets program. I'm working with my colleague, Councilmember Amos, to make sure we can bring more investment to that corridor. And with both World Cup and future Super Bowls and things like that, we want losing transit connectivity along the street will be a challenge for neighbors in the area. I recognize that Ashby is just right there and that provides east-west connectivity, but thinking about it from a commercial economic development standpoint, I think losing that route will be impactful there. And just my last comment just about the bus network redesign, and to kind of use that as a segue to additional conversation. I know we're also losing the 68, which is currently providing connection between West End and the AU Center and Leon White and Lee Street. That's going away. On Monday, AJC reported that Atlanta Beltline is working to enter into a partnership with a company called Beep to provide automated driverless vehicles to provide some connectivity between the AU Center and Leon White and the Atlanta Beltline. My concern with that program is that it appears to be a lot of money that we're spending to provide a service that MARTA could potentially be providing through just typical bus delivery or bus services or additional it just feels duplicative from what y'all are doing. So my long conclusion to this question is, have y'all talked with Beltline not only about that service, but other ways in which y'all can augment that to ensure that we return northwest connectivity from West End MARTA Station south down Lee Street or connecting to the AU Center, recognizing that, a third of AU Center students don't have a car. It's a population that is relatively transit dependent, and I think there's just a missed opportunity by not having that conversation. So long question, sorry.
No, that's okay. That's great that these are recorded so we can go back and get detailed into, your specific asks and make sure that we've gone through it with a fine-tooth comb. But let me say in summary that we will absolutely consider your comments in terms of what appears to be the loss of service. Typically, what our team has been doing when trying to sort of straighten out these routes to get more high frequency is trying to, whether it's through demand zones or some, rather redundant nearby routing. And so let me go back and ask specific questions about those things that you've raised. In terms of the Beltline, we're aware the Beltline is running a pilot of this automated service. And we have a scheduled engagement with CEO Higgs just to make sure we're up to speed on what the plans are. And we will be monitoring and involved. And where conversations make sense about, as you say, duplicative efforts, we will certainly sort that out. No need to spend twice.
Okay, thank you. And then just one more comment on buses. I know you talked about the fare system upgrades that are happening at transit stations across the city. Does that include buses as well? One of the biggest issues that I run into is, it's not an issue for me as an end user, but sometimes those fare boxes on the bus don't work and I get waved onto the bus. And I know that's impacting your ridership numbers as well. Yeah. But those are getting upgraded as well?
Yes, AFC 2.0 includes buses and rail.
Okay. And then, are y'all looking at electric buses as far as your fleet acquisitions going forward? I know APS has some electric buses that we were able to acquire through some federal funding, but I don't know if y'all are looking at that as well.
We do. We have. We started a couple of, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, was our first tranche of electric buses, and we have a number of them scheduled to come on board.
Okay, thank you. And then I know I've been talking with Stephanie about this over the last couple of weeks. are y'all looking at repositioning your existing bus shelters as part of the bus network redesign? And are y'all using the same thresholds for ridership to determine whether or not a specific stop needs either a bench or a bus shelter? And so the reason why I ask that is in one specific instance on Atlanta Student Movement, my seniors are requesting a bus shelter, but the ridership numbers don't, it doesn't meet the threshold for bus shelter. But to me, there's an equity argument there as far as, you know, even though the ridership numbers aren't there, still we need to provide that support. So I do want to support that. But I wonder too, in other places that don't have shelters or benches, if with the redesign, if we can look at making sure that we can distribute those in a more equitable way than currently exists, even if the ridership numbers aren't there.
Thank you for that. We absolutely will. And you're right, it's not just ridership numbers that drive it. There are considerations when there are communities in need or vulnerable populations that we do that. And I will say about the, you know, because of the success of the 1,000 Amenities program, we now have 70% of MARTA's customers who are waiting for a bus are waiting there with an amenity. So it's a vast improvement over where we were 5 years ago. And our plan is to increase that number to 80%. So definitely by the time we've redesigned and replaced bus stops where they belong, we will be matching those criteria in terms of what gets a bus shelter, and then we'll move on from there because we haven't stopped growing that network of amenities.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then my last question, and I recognize he's up next in the queue, but I know my colleague, Georgia Tech alum colleague, is really curious about how we came up with the name SEC for the new station at former Georgia World Congress Center station. So I'm just asking on his behalf.
You want me to answer that?
Yeah, I'm curious too. As a Georgia guy, I love it, but you know.
Yeah, that name came to me about the same time it came to you. So, you know, a number of business units got together and said, business interests, and said, well, let's land on a name that, I think the idea was let's land on a name that doesn't kind of name any particular business entity to give advantage. And so they all agreed on this. And as long as we had concurrence, I think, you know, in this business, concurrence is a big thing. So we had concurrence. We said, let's go right ahead. So that's as much as I can give you in terms of the birth of the name.
Are there any other stations that y'all are looking at for name updates? I imagine, you know, there's no longer an Ashby Street. There's no longer a Bankhead Highway.
Yeah.
Civic Center is being redeveloped. I don't know if y'all have been looking at those stations as well.
They're all on the list for review, and we will be making further name changes to stations. None else will be in time for the World Cup. So we're just setting expectations there. There's a lot of phases that we were able to expedite given the nature of the way this was born, but the rest of our stations will have to go through a fulsome review, budgeting, and public engagement. So, but yes, to answer your question, other stations will be receiving some name changes where it makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair, I know that was a lot, but I am yielding the floor. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Our next speaker, Councilmember Juan.
Dozier, you did have to rub that in, didn't you? I was in a good mood until, no, I'm kidding. I've got two just macro questions, and then I'll dive in a little more granularly. In terms of the ridership, I'm kind of curious, it goes through March. Have we seen any sort of impact with the federal call back into the office? And then in the city of Atlanta, we're doing the same thing. I just wonder if that may be a driver for months that aren't necessarily on here just yet.
Yeah, we did. I don't have a number for you, but we did see a noticeable increase in the ridership when that announcement came through. We, if you recall, we went into the media and said, you know, let MARTA do the driving, trying to capitalize on that, and so we suspect that that'll continue. Good.
I'm glad. You know, look forward to the next quarterly report when we'll see the impact of that. But yeah, I just was thinking we likely would. Onto the budget that you just, the board just adopted. I know there was an article in the paper yesterday about it, and there was just a modest step back in terms of the dollar from your FY25 budget. Sales tax represents 2/3 of your operating revenue, and as you know, we're in the middle of our budgeting process right now. I'm curious as to if y'all saw the same phenomenon, or if you experienced the same phenomenon where you have a budget that's approved and then your actuals come in, what those look like, and if the step back well, I mean, the sales tax revenue from your FY25 budget to FY26 actually is an increase.
Yes.
So I'm a little, maybe you can walk me through the macro considerations you had in terms of sales tax, economic environment right now, because I'm just trying to reconcile what we're hearing on our side versus what y'all are saying on your side.
In terms of how we forecast sales tax, is that, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, first, yes, and did you see a jump from what you budgeted in FY25 to what you realized? And was there even a step back from what you received?
I see, okay. I'm in the audience is our Deputy CFO,
Okay.
Greg Patterson, so I'll get Greg to come up and get into the granular, but, you know, I'll just say that we've been pleasantly, not surprised, but we've been pleasantly rewarded with Georgia's sales tax revenues for several years now. Even when a number of our peer agencies were suffering, our sales tax, as you say, is the lion's share of our revenue, and that continues to do well. That said, we have taken a rather conservative approach to the way we forecast our numbers, and we hope that, you know, that it surpasses that. But Greg, if you can get more granular.
Yes, sir. Yes, Councilmember Juan. So the way we approach the budget from a revenue perspective, of course, we receive our revenue forecast from the Economic Forecasting Center with Georgia State University. We received that in the latter part of December. And so we were using that as our starting point for that. Obviously, a lot of the news that came out about tariffs and other things came after that. So we listed in our list of risks to the budget that economic impact of forces beyond control of MARTA could impact our budget. And to Mr. Greenwood's point, we built some conservatism into the estimates. We built a little more contingency, and we did our best to forecast modestly what we would be getting for fare box revenue, because we knew in the act of replacing our fare gates and equipment, there would be some loss of revenue during that time as well.
Okay. This is helpful. Again, I'm encouraged to see that agencies and institutions are kind of stepping back their economic situation that we're in. I think you've heard us say about our city budget that we're a little surprised we haven't. Well, I'll leave that there. So going to the more MARTA projects, also glad to see that, you know, if you look at the percentage of dollars expended in FY25 that are actually going to either design or construction represents a significant portion, and that's how it should be.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea of what the projected percentages for FY26 are? Are we going to continue that trend? Is it actually going to increase the shift to actual,
Yes.
I'll call it production versus just preparation?
Absolutely. We're getting to that time in these projects. And, you know, I've heard in public comments, people are concerned that things take a long time, and it really is about knowing what's happening behind the scenes before you can see things start to happen. But construction changes all of that, spending, visual, and people understanding that we're moving.
How does it work in terms of, you know, we've seen in the news as well, the Summerhill BRT project, now the estimated overruns on that because of the surprises that happens. What happens, do those overruns then squeeze out the remaining project available balances? Are we in a situation where it is first in, first mover advantage at the expense of the others that are still on the design table?
That's an end state possibility,
Yeah.
but there are so many things that happen before that. So,
Okay.
you know, we are seeking government funding. So we hope to get grants and monies to replenish that. We hope to negotiate with the folks involved, the contractors and whatnot, to be realistic about what those increases are. We also had contingencies, you know, built into some of our budgets, but of course this stands to exceed all of those. And because it's a multi-year project, we have several opportunities to tweak all of those levers. So in honesty, at the end of the day, if there's nothing else, and we will have to take a look at our prioritized projects to see how much is left, but because this is a sales tax that continues to replenish, there's a good possibility that we'll be fine.
Okay. Well, I'm encouraged to hear that there are other strategies, but I will just voice the concern about the crowding out effect and again, first mover advantage and you know, segues me perfectly. Obviously, you know, I was going to mention Clifton Corridor being one of those still on the design table. I appreciate the update on this. I think it sounds like the critical milestones that y'all have hit in terms of the term sheet, in terms of hiring a consultant to really facilitate those conversations with CSX are really encouraging. I think the next one important milestone that my district's looking at would be the public engagement meetings or conversations in advance of the LRA vote. And so it sounds like we're still on schedule for second half, you know, next quarter. Definitely please keep me posted on that. I will be nudging and pushing on that. I understand from my colleague at Emory that Emory stands ready to host that meeting and provide a facility for it as we've done in the past, but just want to let's stay on track, pun intended, time-wise with that. And if there's anything that we can do to help and my district can do to help, please let me know.
Will do. Thank you, Council Member.
Mr. Chair, I yield. Wait. I did have one last question. With regard to the cost allocation timeline, the ad hoc committee that y'all have are using is strictly internal to MARTA, correct, at this point?
That's correct.
And then did you may have said it and I missed it, your anticipated timeline of that process concluding and then the opportunity to kind of revisit that?
I didn't say, I said they had one meeting.
Okay.
They did give some time and space for the MARTA staff that are involved to focus on the budget, given our budget deadline. And then, and so we will pick that up in the near future.
Okay. I just want to signal, I think there is a real appetite and an openness from at least my side. I don't want to speak for my colleagues. I think, you know, given the level of increased work and shovels in the ground that we're anticipating over the next couple of years, I think all of us would just love to get a resolution to that, put it behind us, and then just move forward and focus on the work. So I look forward to that time when y'all's ad hoc committee completes, and then to the extent that council can be, I don't know that we would necessarily be, but engaged in that resolution, count me in as an advocate who wants to, like I said, put it behind us.
Thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield.
Thank you. Next speaker will be Vice Chair, Councilwoman Overstreet.
Thank you. So, Mr. Greenwood, I really want to thank you for being here today. I know I made quite a stink when you didn't come earlier this for the last presentation, and I appreciate when you come. So
Thank
I want
you, Council Member.
tell you thank you for that. So much so that it's the seniors all-white party today, and so I wore my white, and I was like, well, I have to make it because heaven forbid you make it, and I don't. I didn't want that. So.
You would have heard about it. Yeah.
That's right, so I'm here. But thank you for your presentation. I do want to ask a few questions. I'm thankful to hear so many comments about where we are with the Campbellton BRT. I don't know if Reverend Fleming's still here. He
Yes. Yeah.
he contacts my office regularly because he really does speak for the corridor. And these are the riders that I speak about all the time, the ones that actually need us to get this right and to be on point about our transportation options in the city. They're not using transportation to head to the World Cup. It's not happening. Right. They are really they're trying to get to grocery stores that we don't have on Campbellton yet. We have one coming, but they really need us to get this right. So thank you to Reverend Fleming for coming today. I really appreciate that. Had no idea you were coming. So thanks for the big surprise. But
it's I was surprised by the Reverend as well. It's good to see him. We do have conversations from time to time about the corridor and about some other issues that are going on in the community, but I do find him very helpful and supportive.
Absolutely. He is helpful and supportive, even if he's not saying what we'd like to hear. I'm always thankful to help him and anyone that needs us. So the updates, I hope those updates are good for you that you heard today. I am glad that we heard those updates about Campbellton Road today because there are some concerns. After all of the news reports about the Summer Hill issues, I've been getting lots of questions about Campbellton Road. And of course, everyone's sick of seeing the renderings, which, by the way, I do want to sidebar. One of the renderings that you showed today for Campbellton has the bike lanes there, but they don't have the updated barrier protected bike lanes on there. And if we could get that changed, that'll be great, so that that'll be one less
We'll take a look at it.
call that I'll be receiving. I thought you said they were going to be protected, so,
Yeah, gotcha.
if we can get that changed. So what are your thoughts on that? Like, how do we let the community know that the Summer Hill situation of all of the nuances and different setbacks or obstacles that have been publicized, the bones, the trails, the parking garages, how do we make sure that that's not going to happen with our Campbellton project?
Well, first of all, to your first question, yes, we did have that roundtable scheduled for May 21. We're rescheduling, but we'll be back out there in the community. We also have some plans to talk to the community as we start to shape the final design. But I don't know that we can. Well, I know that we cannot prevent finding things that that are under the ground, water lines and bones or whatever it is. But MARTA has taken the Summer Hill example and started to try to figure out other ways of, instead of simply potholing is where you dig down into the surface to make sure that what the drawings say is, but we're looking at other AI-enabled technological things that might be able to help us challenge what the drawings give us. So we can do that. We can also set our schedules with that unexpected stuff in mind. It doesn't make it come any faster, but it does kind of set expectations because of what we found on this first dig.
Okay, so drilling down on the cost, what about the additional $30 million that we're having to deal with is that just Summer Hill?
Yeah, that's a Summer Hill project.
Okay, so with that kind of, because, everyone's looking at this capital project, trying to make sure that we are not setting a bad precedent going for our next project. So with that $30 million discrepancy, does the contingency that's built into every project not apply to that at all? Or how are we going to address that? Like, how are we're addressing, or MARTA, how is MARTA addressing those change orders? How is that funded?
So it comes out of the project. It comes out of the project budget, and we negotiate we get our board to allow us to negotiate with the contractors to bring the costs down. But at the end of the day, that comes out of the More MARTA Atlanta project. That's how
Okay.
we're dealing with it. Yeah.
Okay, so let's keep that there.
Yeah.
Now, the More MARTA project is under audit, or the audit is complete, and there's a discrepancy about the amount that is owed to the city from the More MARTA project. Would the city would you expect that the city would want to fill that gap with the 30 million when the audit has told the city that 70 million is owed to us?
Yeah. So we're keeping those two things separate. Otherwise you're into soup, right? So the audit, there have been two auditors come through with operational reviews of the budget. One said that MARTA owes 70 million. The other one said MARTA owes 865,000. So huge discrepancy.
That's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we're keeping that separate. The board ad hoc committee is now going through it, and they'll come to their review and their observations in terms of where they think the pendulum should rest. And to Councilmember Wan's point, at that point, I believe we should all just get back to work. That's separate. That is separate from these findings.
Who decided it would be separate?
No, I did. Those are two
because
separate
I don't
issues.
agree.
Yeah. No, those are.
When someone owes me money, we're not going to forget about that money.
No, but you got to
when it's
calculate
time.
it separately. You have to calculate it separately.
Okay,
Or else
but-
it's spaghetti.
Okay, so I'm going to move on from that.
Sure.
Because just in general,
Yeah.
you cannot keep funds owed separate from other funds that are supposed to be paid for, especially unexpected funds, like for a project that's already funded. The taxpayers have already paid for the Summer Hill project.
You'll find that when we're dealing with millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, we do keep things separate. There are other files like the road resurfacing, where City of Atlanta owes MARTA money for road resurfacing, and all kinds of other things that the two entities work with on a regular basis. But if you merge those lanes, it becomes very difficult to discern what is owed.
So you're saying we have outstanding balances, the city does with MARTA?
As a matter of course, all the work we do together through the years, we work with billion-dollar files overall. So yeah, there are funds always going back and forth.
Okay.
Always. This 70 million is not in the context of all the things that we do together. It's not as big a number as one might think.
Okay, so then in that same vein, that means that 30 million that is going to take for a change order should probably just be in a contingency, because we've got just plenty of funds available
I don't think that's how I
between us
said
two.
it, but no.
Okay. Okay. Well, one more question.
Sure.
How are we deciding to resolve the audit situation?
So we're.
Because I hadn't heard anything lately. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, so the resolution is coming in the process where the board ad hoc committee is reviewing the discrepancy between the two. There's a threshold methodology and the proportional methodology, arguments to be made for both sides, and, we've simply, as a C-suite, we've stepped back to let the board ad hoc committee take a look. We will re-engage when they've concluded and given us their recommendations.
Okay. Yeah, that's the page I had on. So, yeah, it's still a little early for that, but I definitely want us to keep in contact and talk about this as we progress with it, because I just really think that it's worth a conversation. I just want to know, how are we deciding which audit is applicable to where we are right now with our more MARTA dollars? And I just want to know more.
Thank you.
I think I have one more question that I jotted down. Just a second. I think you answered that. Okay, so I'm going to yield for now. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Councilmember Lewis.
And thank you, CEO Greenwood, for us coming today as well. I think I was one of the folks, and I'm always excited when you're here. It's very, very intentional. We found out a lot of things about projects that we have moving forward. The Cleveland Metropolitan ART was the first thing you talked about, so I was extremely excited about that. I don't know if you saw my smile. What I heard you then say, and what I want to follow back up with you to Councilmember Juan, you said sometimes knowing what's happening behind the scenes if you know behind the scenes, you know that the project is moving.
Yes.
But one of the first things we've done since this project started moving, we put up yard signs that say MARTA, Councilman Lewis, City of Atlanta will be hosting an event to tell you about this. And we haven't done it since. And so every call I have with MARTA is about having an event to talk about this project. Because I know it's moving, knowing what's going on behind the scenes. We're not seeing shovels in the ground until a certain point. Right. But every call I make over there is about one thing. And I've been doing it for a while now. Yeah. And so my goal is to, similar to how we started off with the project, so we can know what's going on behind the scenes. We can wait on the shovels that come in the ground, but the people in my area want to know. So I want to see the design. This is an amazing bus stop. We're dropping them all over the district. I enjoy the one we have in front of South Atlanta High School. It was a long time coming. But similar to Councilmember Overstreet, when she said that she saw pictures of hers, of the Campbellton BR, I want to see some photos. I don't know what it looks like. I think it looks like this right now. So,
A couple of things. One is, I think you were out of the room when I said congratulations to you for your District 12 chat and chew. So Marta was out there with you. We were able to answer questions with your community, and any questions that they throw at us, we'll be happy to respond to, and we'll be happy to come out with you more often and talk about the project specifically. I also mentioned that the bid was going to hit the street today, and Carrie just informed that it's hit the street now as we're speaking. So
I was listening the entire time I was here and talk about the bid. I jotted every note about that. ATL DOT is who they'll also be sending you their bid by July. And so
that's what we're expecting.
Yep. So I'll be talking to ATL DOT about getting their bid to you by July. But once again, the bids go out today. Super happy about that. Yeah. But the chat and chew, thank you for sending someone to file questions so we can bring back answers after that. But I want to know what the project looks like. So 2 years ago, we were able to, I want that type of event, that type of communication to the community, similar to what they're getting in other areas. And we've done it before, so I know that Marta can do it. And I would like to do it how we did it before. We informed the community. We had yard signs up so that people knew. And it was an amazing thing. So I would look forward to us doing something like that so we can know what's going on behind the scenes. Great quote that you gave me today. I'll use it moving forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as we generate things to share and talk about, you will see those signs come up. We will engage the public. Can't do it 24/7 across all our jurisdictions, but as you well know, when there's something to share and talk about, we'll be there.
And this is the one. I think we are working together full out. And the reason why I say is because Reverend Fleming today, amazing person. I got so many bishops and reverends on Cleveland Avenue and Metropolitan. And if they need to come in on Q3 meeting, I know they want to because they're calling me every day. And so I didn't know they will come down here if they need to because they want to know what's going on in the community. Similar to Reverend Fleming, who has an amazing relationship with Councilmember Overstreet, they all have amazing relationships with me. And I'm asking them not to come down here. They want to know about this amazing thing we're about to do on Metropolitan and Cleveland Avenue.
Yeah, we're excited to talk about these projects as we progress them. So, people coming down and asking and speaking, that's a good thing. That demonstrates community engagement, community interest. So I would never shy away from them coming down here to speak.
I'll encourage Bishop Fan and the rest of my bishops to be down here at the next at the Q3 meeting to talk about the projects going on in their area. And I love the work that we're doing with Marta because we have 4 projects that we're doing with Marta. It's totally different from any other type of project in the city. And I would like for you to talk about those if possible.
Okay.
So,
you mean right now?
No.
Yeah.
You can bring in the Q3.
We'll come back to you with those.
You just say the name of the 4 if you want. You can say the name of the 4. Lee Street Court, that's the Murphy and Lee, that's the Cleveland Metropolitan, that's the, but we have 4 of them that we're doing in the district, and we don't have a CID in our area. Okay. And so you are able, the work we're doing on Marta is next level. Yeah. Once again, I know it's happening because I know what's going on behind the scenes. So I just thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Okay, the $30,300,000 is the increase on the Summerhill Bus Rapid Transit. And once again, I know I had 4 more projects with Marta coming up. And so I'm nervous. And so can you help me feel more comfortable that my projects won't be chosen in this process?
No, sir. I'm just being frank with you. I couldn't stand here blindly and say your projects won't be affected. What I said at the beginning applies to all the districts, and that is, I forget who I was responding to, I think Mr. Dozier, in that we're trying to offset those costs. We have levers that we're trying to push, negotiate with the contractors, And then we're also mindful of the fact that the revenue source continues to build. And then we also get into value engineering of our projects. As those costs start to increase, we try to de-scope where we need to de-scope in order to keep the project costs intact. But I couldn't stand here in all honesty and say that your projects won't be affected. That would be unfair to everybody else.
Now, I'm team you. That means my folks have to be loud. They have to be squeaky wheels to make sure that the projects that were chosen equity-wise, city-wise. So all the projects I have that are chosen because we didn't get anything past 50, 60 years. And so my folks, they've been living in that exact community. And they're not going, similar to what Councilmember Overstreet said, I don't know the folks that are trying to take the train or the bus to the World Cup. They take it every day to get to work.
Yeah.
My nephew, in particular, he
100%.
walks down to Jonesboro Road and he takes the bus to the airport every day to get to work and the train. And so I'm thinking about those folks who aren't leaving after the World Cup. They're anticipated ridership. They are the current ridership, and it grows if we invest in them. And
Absolutely.
So I want to make sure.
We're in agreement there. I mean, as much as we like to demonstrate progress and grow new projects, it's really, we're equally engaged in today's service and the customers that are waiting for the service today. We agree.
My last question, two more. Restrooms, Lakewood, Oakland City. Where are we on having the restrooms be fully open?
Are you talking about the smart restrooms?
Day one, the first meeting, I'm still talking about the same stuff we talked about in our first meeting.
Smart restrooms, I'm not sure where the project is today. It is something that we've purchased all the equipment, so we're somewhat insulated from any supply chain issues or cost increases because of what's going on in the economy. But in terms of having the bandwidth and dollars to, we have an overall system plan, and I'd have to check the plan to see where yours are.
The reason I asked that is because I'm the council member that brought up restrooms, and other stations have had restrooms open up before the two that I brought up.
Yeah.
And so I'm asking, how can I, because I'm the council member that talked about going to use the restroom in the bushes when we first met, at the Lakewood train station that people still are doing. They're still doing it. And so how can I get like the other train stations? We can go and look at the stations that have had their automatic restrooms already open up, but I brought that up, and so I want what they got. And last question, because you told me that I should be nervous. My last question would be, in total, it appears MARTA has some ridership, financial, and operational set of problems, and may even be considered to need a turnaround. Do you agree? And if not, why? If so, how is this going to happen? And I can ask again.
Yeah, could you please repeat that?
And you told me to be nervous about my projects.
No, I didn't tell you to be nervous.
Oh, I was specific. I said, should I be nervous about projects in my district because of the $30,300,000?
No, you said, can I tell you that your projects won't be affected? And I said, no. I don't want you to be nervous. We're going through this together. I mean, if all of your colleagues agree that we should turn all our resources to your area, then we can talk about that. But I don't think we're going to get that agreement. No need to be nervous. We're going to continue working together. I think our visions are aligned, and I wouldn't encourage you to be nervous. I think you lead better when you're not.
Okay. So, thank you. Thank you for that. But it appears from looking at the report, seeing $30,300,000 we have to make up, and we're going to make sure that happens. Our goal is to deliver all the projects, understanding the new administration and the new administration in DC, because I know I heard you say that we're going to be looking at grants, as he's looking at every grant with DEI, and so that I wouldn't want to count on grants. And looking at the financial outlook, it appears from my eyes that MARTA has real ridership, financial, and operational set of problems. It has a real ridership, financial, and operational set of problems, and may even be needed of what's considered to be a turnaround. Do you agree? And if not, why?
Okay. So you just read something that says it appears that MARTA has financial, operational.
A real set of ridership.
Okay.
Financial.
All right.
an operational set of problems.
Okay, let me start there before you continue reading. Ridership, no. So our ridership is continuing to increase. The world suffered a setback, yes. Our ridership has not grown as quickly as a lot of other agencies has. I want everyone to remember that MARTA's modal share, or Atlanta's modal share in transit is somewhere between 7 and 9%, where your progressive transit cities have always had modal share somewhere around 25%, New York 50%. So when you start talking about the elasticity of a population to bounce back from something as precipitous as the pandemic, you would expect that a city that has for generations had such a small modal share has a harder time getting back to where it once was. However, I will say that there are all kinds of signs that point north for MARTA when it comes to ridership. A, the steady year-over-year improvement. B, the fact that we're making all of these improvements in bus network redesign, new trains, $1 billion in station refurbishments. All of that is being designed to continue to grow ridership. On top of that, you can say that Atlanta is going to experience a significant increase in population. We're going to go from something like 6 million to 8 million in the next 25 years. Even at 7% modal share, you're going to have an increase in ridership over that. I'm also encouraged by the fact that there's been an effort to have people return to work and start, our business is largely getting people to and from work. And when people stop going to work, it follows that our business would take a hit. But if City of Atlanta and the federal government and others are starting to move people back into work, we'll see that continue to increase as well. So that's the ridership picture. In terms of financial picture, no, MARTA is actually one of the top agencies in the country when it comes to financial position. We have multiple AAA bond ratings. There's only 6 transit agencies in the country. You'd have to go, there's like maybe 1,200 agencies that would count in this category. Only 6 of them have multiple AAA bond ratings, and your MARTA is one of them. And that means that we're able to negotiate loans at a much better rate. And that also, you don't get a AAA bond rating unless you are fiscally responsible and unless you are in a strong financial position. That's why when a lot of other transit agencies, we've got there are headlines talking about other agencies facing fiscal cliffs, cutting their service by 50%, dropping staff ad nauseum. MARTA is not in that boat. MARTA is actually using a very measured, austerity measured approach over the next 3 years to return us to not using reserves at all to balance the budget. So it's a very strong position. And then thirdly, you said operational. I couldn't disagree more. MARTA's operational posture is far better than it's been in many, many years. Even in terms of restoring rail system headways to what they were pre-pandemic. We've done that we started that in December. We've updated on that lately. Again, the bus network redesign is going to add something like 250% more people are going to have access to frequent service than they ever had before in this city. I wish I had a list, but I could go on and on about all the operational improvements that we're doing.
And I truly appreciate you for that. Once again, I speak for the people who asked me to ask questions to you as well. The things I concern most about, restrooms, Lakewood and Oakland City, if you can.
Yes.
Making sure we get loud about what we're doing with Cleveland Metropolitan ART. And once again, only you can answer some of these questions. So
I understand.
I always appreciate when you come, and I've never seen you run from a question. Thank you.
Thank you,
Chair.
Next speaker, Councilmember Farooq.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to request that MARTA provide a cost per passenger mile over the last 10 years, whether system-wide, bus, heavy rail, streetcar. I think it's important for us to understand that. And I know, that is common parlance, and I think transportation reports. Yeah. I assume you all have that within a fingertip. And I would ask that it not be, we not wait till the next quarter, but if you can just email our staff so they can be shared, I think it would be helpful as we think about it.
I can start in terms of immediate consumption. I don't have it per mile, but cost per passenger on our fixed route bus is something in the neighborhood of $11 a passenger, $12 for heavy rail, and in excess of $80 for mobility. So, but that's what I recall, but we can distill that in a per mile. I don't even have to distill it. I'm sure it exists in our, so we'll get that over to you.
Okay, thank you. In response to Councilmember Lewis's questions toward the end there was some discussion on your optimism around increased ridership. But I mean, it's all hypothetical. Even as population grows, we don't know how we're going to be moving around in the future. There could be other macro shocks that determine how we work, where we move around. So I guess I was going to push you on this. Is what are the things that MARTA can control that affect ridership? Because everything else, I mean, you're at the mercy of a bunch of other things, right? Other technologies, economic shifts, real estate shifts, you know, how we could run a list of things that you can't control that affect your business. And is there anything beyond the cost of your service that you charge riders, frequency and routes, that y'all control that impacts ridership?
Sure, a couple of things. Well, whenever someone asks me about where I think the future of something's going to be, I think, you know, we can all agree that there's going to be some level of, I forget the word you used when you started, but anyway, some sort of guessing in terms of what the future holds. But I'm serious when I say I'm looking at the concrete building blocks that we have put in place, the fact that the trend continues to move up, and the existence of some real concrete things. Yes, there is going to be an influx of migration into Atlanta. That's not me saying that. That's ARC, that's statistics. And in terms of the things that we can control, it's well known that clean, safe, reliable services attract riders. So replacing our buses, replacing our train system. Our trains are among the oldest in the world. And I think I got to stop here and give credit to the maintenance teams, because we're still getting near 90% on-time performance out of a train system that's the oldest in the world. I take these things and coupled with the fact that we're now bringing on new trains, the trains that we're bringing on are the most advanced trains in North America. And so you take a group of people that's able to give you near 90 with the oldest trains in the world and give them something that's brand new, and then of course I have reason to believe that the service is going to increase. And as you increase your service, as you increase your headways, as you clean your stations, as you bring on AFC 2.0 and allow people to pay with their credit cards or their watches, that is the type of stuff that grows ridership. Our transit-oriented development profile, as I said earlier, we're taking a second look at the strategies there, and it's simply put, it's designed to grow ridership around our transit nodes, and I'm very encouraged by the moves that are happening in that space. So growing ridership, it means getting the basics right. It means leveraging support from the community when we talk about MARTA and public transit, speaking of it in the sense that it is something that makes sense. It's something that progressive cities do, and we will get there.
Okay. Skeptical, but we can revisit this conversation in a decade and see how things go. On slide 34, your MARTA cost assessment timeline, cost allocation assessment timeline. The first bullet refers to the Malden and Jenkins report as an operation assessment.
Yes.
Why don't you refer to it as an audit?
In speaking with KPMG, it's an operational assessment. I'm not the auditor, but that's what the KPMG auditors have said. This was an operational assessment. Theirs was, as was KPMG's, and there are technical requirements before you can call something an audit. And you know, in repeating what KPMG has said, that was an operational assessment.
Yeah. I mean, Malden and Jenkins is a firm that conducts audits. They called their paper an audit. The city hired them to conduct an audit. The media refers to it as an audit. And I think the word choice here is intentional on MARTA's part to try to shirk.
No. It's look, okay.
Callie,
fine.
look.
Fine. No, that's good. Let me accept that.
For 2 years now.
Let me accept that.
Yeah, I just it continues to feel like you're not taking the city's position seriously and taxpayers' concerns seriously. That there are concerns, audited concerns, that there are $70 million in more MARTA funds that for lack of a better term, and you can challenge me on this, were misspent or allocated in a way that was beyond the scope of MARTA. And, we're 2 years into it. I know you and MARTA and the executive branch of the city are continuing to go back and forth on this. But can you give us, from MARTA's position, what is the path forward on this?
As stated earlier, well, first let me go back. I can't say that this was intentional. I didn't say intentionally use those words, but let's accept that operational audit was an intentional phrase. It's the phrase we assign to what KPMG has done as well.
You don't call it audit, you call it an assessment, which is, I think soft pedaling or trying to diminish what was conducted.
Well, then forgive me, we're not trying to soft pedal that whatsoever. I think that the fact is, you continue to say that MARTA owes $70 million. You've just made the point that you think that there may have been some malfeasance or misallocation of funds. And I think you want to recognize that both Malden and Jenkins and KPMG have said there's been no malfeasance. There's been, the money is all there. The question is, which pocket is it in? And I think that's a very important point to make when you start levying accusations that way. The second thing is, quite frankly, we've never agreed with the methodology that Malden and Jenkins used. Before the number came out, we said that methodology is wrong. You can't use the threshold methodology in this case with the reduction of services. So whatever number they came up with, it stands to reason that I was not going to agree with it, but they came up with their number. Enter KPMG, also a very well-respected audit firm, and they came up with a number that was $865,000.
Using a different methodology, to be clear.
Using a different methodology, a methodology that makes sense, given the
From MARTA's perspective, fair enough.
Well, yeah, you're talking to MARTA, so it absolutely makes sense. But where we go from here is, as I've stated earlier in this session, is that I've stepped back. The board ad hoc committee is reviewing. They're reporting back to me, letting me know what's going on. They're engaging with our financial folks, and they're talking. And I think it's wonderful because they're speaking from a respectful, progressive place. And I believe that they're going to come back with some observations that will be useful in our final determinations.
And this is a question I would ask the city's executive leadership as well, but what's the timeline for coming back with some agreement or a path forward?
That did come up earlier. I said they had their first meeting, at least one prior meeting, and then we got into our budget crunch. So I would suspect that in the next couple of weeks they will start to pick up a cadence of meetings again. That's all I can tell you. This is, as you said, it's an important issue. I don't want to, extend a timeline to get this work done. Remember, Malden and Jenkins took about a year to come up with that number, so we're not anywhere near that right now.
All right. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Our last speaker is President Shipman.
Thank you. Good to see you, CEO Greenwood. Let me just sort of bucket a few questions. I want to start macro factors, a few kind of overall economic issues. Then I'll talk a little bit about a few things in the presentation, their current state, then a little bit about the budget.
Sure.
So just a couple of macro things. I know that we don't know a lot about what's happening with the federal government. We're going through the same sort of things and when we're doing our budget. Have you identified yet any federal funds that have been taken back or that are significantly at risk related to what's happening?
No, I have not.
Okay, so everything right now, all the federal fund lines and such, those are all still stable.
We're still status quo and encouraged by some of the conversations we're hearing out of DC.
Okay, and then I know that tariffs are a daily change, but are there currently any tariff or supply chain impacts that you've seen that would impact FY26 priorities, capital projects yet?
No, as Greg said earlier, we've identified tariffs and the changing landscape as a budget risk. So we've done our budget in as conservative and forthright manner as we can, and then we just simply recognize the risk of tariffs. So we can't really forecast what that's going to be.
But not supply chain issues around the new train cars or around supplies, anything that you sort of put your finger on to say, oh, that's going to be tough.
There's been war, there's been supply chain issues, but we have managed to work with Stadler to offset those to date. I can't speak to what happens next, but so far we are tracking in accordance with our plan.
Great. Just wanted to ask a question about page 23, 5 points timeline. On that page, it said expected delivery spring 26. What's expected to be delivered spring 26?
So that's 5 Point Station rehabilitation. So that's
the
everything
inside.
downstairs.
Yeah.
So that's all of that will be ready for the 26th.
And then what's the current timeline on the overall project, the canopy, et cetera?
The canopy and stuff, I don't have a finish date on that right now. I suspect it'll bleed into 2028 and perhaps beyond. We completely missed the World Cup. We have Super Bowl in 2028. Deep down, I hope we make it for the Super Bowl, but I can't say that right now. Skanska has not had a chance to really get out there and get started, and I think at that point, they'll be more comfortable giving us a revised schedule.
Okay. So I do want to go back to ridership for just a minute.
Sure.
It looks like to me, if you look at May 23 to May 25, sort of the last 2 years, both rail and bus are fairly flat. There may be a slight increase in both, but it looks like it's pretty much the same. So trying to control for some seasonality, sort of where we are and where we are 2 years ago. Is that fair?
Yeah, I spoke to the rail issue. Rail, in actuality, is likely a lot closer to the blue line that you're seeing there. So taking that away over the last 2 years, yeah, it's not flat. It is an increase, but it's not as dramatic as I would have hoped to have seen.
And I know that you've talked a lot about, I've watched your meetings around the fare collection issue.
Yeah.
How much additional do you think is being missed through the fare collection issue? Do you think it's a 10%, miss? Do you think it would double? Like, just give us kind of a.
I think we're about $7 million a year on fare evasion. So I suspect that will have a significant improvement to the picture.
Got it. And $7 million a year would obviously increase if I look at your page 7. I think it's page 7. It's not numbered, but the operating budget highlights $7 million a year in passenger revenue, put it up about $75 million.
Yeah.
So I get it up to 15%.
Right.
Is that the right? I know that Board Member Durrett at the retreat asked this question of you. Is that the right ongoing relationship between fare to budget and all the other sources? I mean, MARTA is healthy in large part because of sales tax, which is the way we're structured it. I believe that there's a standing requirement or target that 40% of MARTA's budget should be around fare. And historically, when MARTA was first conceived, I'm just wondering your opinion.
Yeah, okay.
Is 15%-ish the right number? Should we be shooting for more fare revenue?
Yeah, I'm surprised to hear 40%. I think we'd have to dig into that to see what they meant. I don't anticipate MARTA making 40% of their revenues off of fares. I believe somewhere around 20% is a reasonable target, but we're not there yet.
Okay. Let me just talk a little bit more about current state. You've heard some of the plans that have come out of the mayor's office about thoughts about how the transit should be designed and what projects should be reprioritized.
Yeah.
Currently, FY25, has any money been spent on the planning or design of potential infill stations?
No.
Okay. Are you budgeting any FY26 money currently for infill station planning?
So let me just qualify this. The mayor and his staff will be sitting down with us and making formal recommendation requests for these things. And until that happens, MARTA is not in a position to spend money until it's officially on our PGC approved list.
Understood. And it would not only have to be PGC approved, but MARTA board approved, correct? Because as we've talked about before, MARTA controls more MARTA. So you in essence would have to say, yes, we will take these recommendations. Here's how we'll implement it.
Yes.
But currently, there's no FY26 money around that.
Correct.
And by the same token, and this is less of a question for you, and it's more just making sure we all understand. Same thing for Southside Rail planning. There's currently no FY26 money for Southside Rail planning.
That's correct.
And is there currently any West Side streetcar extension money in the FY26 budget for planning?
There would not be.
Okay. And then, given those announcements, but again, just the FY26 budget, what is the $7 million in East Side extension budget intended to be spent on currently?
I'm going to look to my staff to see if, or final design? Yeah, that's a final design cost. Thank you.
Okay, got it. So obviously, things can change, but that's where we are for FY26
Correct.
currently in your budget. Okay. Couple of other things about the FY26 budget. If I'm reading your budget correctly, police services are going up FY25 to FY26 by about 7%, but they are down since FY23 about 5% between FY23 spend and FY26 spend.
Okay.
Can you just talk a little bit of, well, first let me just ask, because I know how budgets can sometimes work. Are all the police services dollars in your police services line, or are there police services kind of in other parts of your budget?
No, it's all included.
That's all included. So why spend less now than in FY23? And kind of a related question, in FY25, you were only spending $35.5 million, which was down 11% from FY23. We've seen our police budgets go up significantly since I've been here in FY22. I'm wondering the strategy there.
Yeah, I think you're looking at budgeted numbers, right? So in terms of our budgeted numbers, I guess that this qualifying statement may shed some light on all that. We had a number of vacancies in the police services area at MPD. And so what we've done was we've increased in terms of the rate of pay that we're paying our officers. We've improved the compression rate so that you can get to top rate a lot sooner, and some other environmental improvements so that we can decrease the number of vacancies. So that we had, I don't remember the numbers, we had a fair number of officers leave MARTA Police Department in the last year or so. And in light of the changes that we've made, the spending we've made in that area, a great many of them have come back. We've also been able to go to regions far away from here to recruit more officers based on a very strong package. So in order to do that, there was a reduction in positions that were vacant. So we've been carrying a lot of vacant positions for a great number of years, just as police agencies all throughout this region have been. And it was really a decision to be realistic about, we need to fill these vacancies or remove them. And in removing some of them, we were able to find the money to invite people to come back. So while the number goes down in terms of the budget, in fact, the number of bodies on the street in our police department has increased.
So number of sworn officers, or whatever your term is, has gone up over time.
That's right.
Okay, gotcha. Just speaking to FY26 budget, you mentioned that some of the, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you said that some of the cost reductions have been the same issue, vacancy reductions in your budget from 25 to 26.
Yeah.
Alex Hipp was one of the reporters at the retreat, and he posted some numbers about decreases in budget and planning, capital program delivery, project management. Are those some of the areas that you are seeing some of those vacancy reductions?
Yeah, there's vacancy reductions is the right way to put it. So positions that have been vacant, for the most part, there are some positions that may indeed have someone in it, but I don't have those numbers in front of me. But in terms of vacancy reductions, yes, that's largely what it is.
So I guess it begs the overall question, which is, to Councilmember Wan's point, we're going to see spending actually increase on capital projects.
That's right.
You've had a number of vacancies in some of these areas for delivery. You're now kind of right-sizing your budget to reflect where you really are. Do you have the manpower and the woman power to deliver those projects?
The workforce, yes, we do.
How can you be confident that you do?
Well,
You haven't been able to fill the positions that you wanted to fill.
That's right. And yet we're delivering, right? So we are producing these products, we are delivering on these products, and should we get to a point where it's a bandwidth issue, we can address that through contractual services. But the fact is, we are moving forward with a great number of vacancies that we don't need there, especially if they're not related to safe, clean, and reliable. It's just a strategic decision that we've made budget-wise, that we cannot afford to carry vacancies that aren't contributing to the bottom line.
And let me just push on this a little bit more.
Sure.
It looks as if through April of FY25 actuals, your salary line's about 11% under budget. I would assume that's a vacancy, that's a vacancy issue you thought you were going to have, et cetera. But that's literally the salary line. I mean, are you having trouble recruiting? Are you able to get the talent that you need? I mean, that's not only, I mean, the salary lines across all the business. Bus drivers, rail drivers, cleaning staff. I mean, we've talked about labor challenges you've had. Everybody's had them. Are those resolving, or are they still the same?
So yes, everybody has labor issues. In terms of the frontline staff, for example, MARTA is now over 90% or probably 95% in terms of actual bodies to authorized bodies. So that glut that we were experiencing over the last couple of years is being managed.
Okay. One more kind of not FY26 budget, but a little bit of that, and then I just want to touch on the audit for a minute. When would a go, no-go decision on the South Side Trail need to be made to start construction by 29? I'm trying to get a sense for the realistic nature of the South Side Rail project.
Yeah, I don't have that. I don't have a date for you. We can get back to you.
That would be great.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a lot of question around with the administration's kind of new vision and what the timeline realistic is. And especially since there's been planning in other areas and now there's been a resequencing.
Yeah.
Let me ask about Clifton Corridor, back to a couple things on Councilmember Juan. 2 years ago, when we were going through the projects, there was about $500 million in anticipated federal dollars in the Clifton Corridor. That was something that CEO Rocha and I talked about. On page 19 now, in attachment B of some of the materials that you've recently presented, the 10-year look forward for more MARTA, there's $593 million on the Clifton Corridor line. Is that still anticipated to be federal, or is that now anticipated to be more MARTA funded? And does that 593 represent all of the money needed? I'm wondering if we've made a funding change or not on the Clifton.
Let me invite Carrie up to speak to that.
Sure. Good morning. I'm Carrie Rocha, Chief Capital Officer for MARTA. So the amount of money that's on the Clifton Corridor line is the total projected project cost. Within our budget, we do include the federal contributions in a separate line. So we are showing the total expected expenditures, but there is a different line where we show what we anticipate to get for grants. And, that included our anticipation for Campbellton, $150 million, and then I don't remember the exact number. I think it was possibly $300 million that we were anticipating for Clifton.
Got it. Okay. And then the other question is, you may be able to answer this one, how would the timeline change on the Clifton planning if the terminus changed from Lindbergh to an infill station? Does that reset the clock?
So it does not reset the clock. What we're trying to do is catch up with this early feasibility study to look at Armour. It does represent a small savings to the Clifton project because there is a structure we would no longer have to construct, but then you have the additional cost of the infill. So with this study, we're just trying to lay out what our options are and if there are additional impacts. Armour Yard, as we know, is part of the MARTA area. So under NEPA, we would likely, I don't want to say we would, but we would likely already have environmental documents for that particular area that we could just compare and use to see if anything has changed.
Got it. Thank you. That's super helpful. So 2 last questions on the audit. First, one of the things that we had talked about from FY17 to FY19 was that MARTA wasn't able to document how it had made calculations in real time back in 17 to 19, how the allocations had been made. Has that been able to be reconstructed?
Yes.
In the KPMG audit?
Yes.
So that's a little confusing to me because in the KPMG audit, there's a table that said, or in the KPMG assessment, sorry, the table 1 shows the threshold method and the proportional method being equal for 17, 18, and 19. So does that mean that you've confirmed that you were using the threshold method in 17 to 19?
Yeah, I'd have to take some time with that, Doug. You've got it in front of you, so I can just say this: KPMG spent the time required to look at both methods. They spent the time going over what the proportional method looks like during that time frame and took the time to do an operational, a fulsome review of what those numbers were. I think I would be best advised to just say KPMG has come up with that based on the reconstruction of what MARTA did during that time. And to do that, we brought some of the folks that used to work here during that time, brought them back to, make sure they went back to what documents did you reference, what numbers did you use, so they were able to reconstruct that. And, for me, that just meant a level of confidence in the assessment that KPMG was doing. That's the extent to which I'm comfortable commenting on their interpretation.
If I could pass along a request, that was obviously a key issue. I would love it if KPMG could send over some specificity around that, around the 17 to 19, what actually, not what should have happened, what actually, how those calculations were made. In reading through the KPMG report, that wasn't clear to me, so I'd love just for them to follow up a little bit.
No problem.
Coming out of the Molden and Jenkins audit, FY22, 9.9 million was identified. FY20 to 21, 16.3 million was identified. My understanding was that the 9.9 million for FY22 had been replaced back into more MARTA, and that there was still a question as to whether or not 20 to 21 was going to be changed. And then there was a lot of disagreement over 17 to 19. In reading through KPMG, their methodology now flips what they think are the mismatches. Because the proportional method basically shows that there's a lot more owed in 21 and 22. So my question is, did you take back the 9.9 million from more MARTA for FY22 that my understanding was previously deposited? And has the 20 to 21, 16 million not been deposited?
Yeah, at this point in time, I don't believe there's been any transfers back and forth since then. So those transfers happen fairly frequently. They happen, I don't need to approve them. The board doesn't need to approve them. It's about balancing our true-ups at the end of each year, and from time to time they take a look midpoint. So those things will happen at the right time, but I don't believe we've made any moves in light of this ad hoc review that's going on.
Got it. Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. About to lose my quorum, so I will hold my questions and comments, get to you later. But Ashby Street, I think we're applying for LCI. So please make sure you're talking to the city departments on that. And just so anyone will be able to say that I didn't say it, we talk about World Cup and we still never mention Vine City.
Oh.
So thank you for the report. We'll follow up later. Mr. Johnson, let's move as swiftly as we can. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, this takes us to our consent agenda, Section H, ordinance for first reading, item number 2, 2501278. An ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or designee to exercise the third renewal option for a special procurement agreement listed herein, print and mail services with Atlanta Print and Mail.com Incorporated on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation for a term of 1 year, retroactively effective March 29, 2025, and ending March 28, 2026, to add funds to the agreement in amount not to exceed $75,000.00 and for other purposes. This takes us to our regular agenda, Section I, ordinance for second reading, item number 3, 2501240. An ordinance by Transportation Committee waiving the competitive source selection requirements contained in Article 10, Division 4 of the Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances to authorize the mayor or his designee to execute agreements with sanitation service providers, security services, and any other vendors necessary to support the City of Atlanta's production of the 2025 Atlanta Streets Alive program on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to authorize the City of Atlanta to accept donations supporting the 2025 Atlanta Streets Alive program through the end of the fiscal year 2026, to authorize the mayor or his designee to execute agreements with program sponsors, to authorize all costs to be paid to and all sponsors' donation to be deposited into the Safety and Mobility Capital Finance Fund as listed herein and for other purposes.
Motion to approve. No, second reading. Yep. Motion is made. Second, please open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Item number 4, 2501241. An ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the City of Atlanta to waive the competitive procurement source selection provisions contained in Section 2-1187 of Article 10 Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, as well as any other conflicting code provisions to execute an amendment for contract number listed herein, curbside management services at Hartsfield Jackson Atlanta International Airport with MTI Limo and Shuttle Services Incorporated doing business as Front Row Parking to extend the term of the contract on a month-to-month basis for a period up to 6 months effective May 29, 2025, and to expire on or before November 28, 2025 in amount not to exceed $3,250,000.00. All contract will be charged to and paid from the account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
I do have one quick question, a procurement question. Is this bid out on the street, about to go out on the street? Where are we on it?
Good afternoon, Councilmember Amos. Tyrania Smith, Assistant General Manager, Commercial Revenue. This is out for solicitation, and the bids are due May 23rd.
All right, thank you. Motion to approve. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. Vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. Item number 5, 25-01242, an ordinance by Transportation Committee waiving the Code of Ordinances source selection provisions contained in Chapter 2, Article 10, Section 2-1187 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, as well as any other conflicting code provisions, authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute a reimbursable agreement for the replacement of the central preconditioned air equipment on concourses TA, B, and E with Delta Airlines Incorporated at Hartsfield Jackson Atlanta International Airport, for an amount to Delta not to exceed $1 million and 0 cents. All contract award will be charged to and paid from the account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Motion to approve. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. Item number 6, 25-01243, an ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the City of Atlanta to waive the competitive procurement source selection provisions contained in Section 2-1187, Article 10, Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, as well as any other conflicting code provisions on behalf of the Department of Aviation and the Department of Watershed Management, and to ratify services rendered in connection with agreement number listed herein, Edward System Technology Fire Alarm System Parts Repair and Service Agreement, by authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute an amendment to extend the agreement on a month-to-month basis for a period up to 9 months for an amount not to exceed $900,000 and 0 cents and for other purposes.
Motion to approve. Second. Motion been made and second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. Item number 7, 25-01244, an ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute an agreement between the city and wireless service providers to utilize airport equipment to provide wireless service throughout the main terminal, central passenger terminal complex, concourse T through F, parking garages and plane train stations at Hartsfield Jackson Atlanta International Airport, which shall be for a term of 10 years, waiving Section 2-1291-8 of the City Code of Ordinances and for other purposes.
Motion to approve. Second. Motion is made and second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. Item number 8, 25-01253, an ordinance by Councilmember Andre L. Boone authorizing the mayor or his designee to amend work order number 2 or under the agreement number listed herein, installation of traffic calming measures with Georgia Paving Incorporated, to add funding in amount not to exceed $300,000 and 0 cents for the purpose of installing additional traffic calming measures to waive Chapter 2, Article 10, Division 4 of the Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, insofar as it shall be necessary to authorize the actions authorized hereby and for other purposes. This item would need to be amended. The amendment makes minor revisions in the Section 5 of the legislation.
Second. Motion has been made. Please open the vote. Have someone want to speak? Oh, after, okay. Open the vote for the amendment.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The amendment is before you.
Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hopefully, I see the commissioner here. So I'm supportive of this. I'm just curious in terms of our backlog of traffic calming devices, and I'm surprised this number is as small as it is. I would have expected, given that backlog, to the extent that we've got an opportunity to super fund and get caught up. We're not doing. Is there a reason we're not doing that via this vehicle?
So, Solomon Gavin, ATL DOT. Thank you for that question, Councilmember. This is an isolated procurement that we're pursuing. However, we have a more comprehensive approach that we'll be addressing with council. That includes contracted services. But this is something that we figured we could just get out the way.
When you say isolate, are you saying just isolate a particular project or?
Yeah, for the corridor.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, let's put a pin in that. I'll support this, but let's put a pin in that when you come and do your budget report, because I do think, backlog and outstanding projects is going to be one of the things I lean into there, including traffic calming. So thank you, Commissioner. Move to approve as amended.
Just one more question. Would these be the public safety traffic, if there are speed humps, will they be the ones that our fire trucks can go over without going over?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion on the floor, second. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable as amended. Item number 925-1257. An ordinance by Councilman Ramir Faroki to rename Peace Avenue Northeast as Edna Moffitt Street Northeast, waive certain provisions of Section 138-8 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, and for other purposes. Mr. Chair, this item need to be held for a public hearing.
Motion O. Motion been made and second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The item is held. The sixth is a Section J resolution, item number 10. Item number 10 requires a substitute. The substitute changes the caption. May we have a motion to bring forth a substitute?
So move. Motion been made and second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The substitute before you. Item number 10. 25R3448, a resolution by Councilmember Andre L. Boone as substituted by Transportation Committee, requesting the mayor or his designee install no parking signs to restrict parking at 13825 Bakers Ferry Road Southwest, and for other purposes. The substitute updates the legislative language of several whereas clauses in the caption and also in the legislation per the law department.
Second. Motion been made and second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable on substitute. Item number 1125R3449, a resolution by Council Members Jason Dozier and Amir Faroki authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to execute a project management agreement with the Atlanta Downtown Improvement District for downtown pedestrian wayfinding in amount not to exceed $3 million and 0 cents. All contract work will be charged to and paid from the fund department organization and account number listed herein and for other purposes. Mr. Chair, the department requests to hold this paper.
Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The item is held. Mr. Chair, item number 12 requires a substitute. May we have a motion to bring forth a substitute?
Second. Motion been made and second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. Substitute before you. The substitute makes revisions throughout the body of the legislation as recommended by the law department. Item number 12, 25R3453, a resolution by Councilmember Antonio Lewis as substituted by Transportation Committee, requesting the Commissioner of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to conduct a traffic study on Rockwell Street Southwest to evaluate the conversion of Rockwell Street Southwest from a two-way street to a one-way street and for other purposes.
Motion. Second. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable on substitute. Item number 13 requires a substitute. The substitute makes minor revisions and adds a ninth whereas clause, adding language to ensure compliance with the city's charter in accordance with Section 6-306.
Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. Substitute before you. Item number 1325R 3454, a resolution by Councilmembers Marcy Collier Overstreet, Byron D. Amos, Jason Dozier, Liliana Batiari, Dustin Hillis, Michael Julian Bond, Howard Shook, Matt Westmoreland, Ishay Collins, Andre L. Boone, Amir Faroki, Alex Juan, Jason H. Winston, and Antonio Lewis, as substituted by Transportation Committee, authorizing the City of Atlanta to donate a total amount not to exceed $1 million to the Atlanta Regional Commission through Propel ATL pursuant to Section 6-306 of the City of Atlanta's Charter to continue supporting electric bike initiatives within the City of Atlanta, authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into any necessary agreements to effectuate the donation, and to authorize the chief financial officer or his designee to make all payments from the accounts listed herein and for other purposes. Mr. Chair, the recommendation is to hold.
Second. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The item is substituted and held. Item number 1425R 3460, a resolution by Councilmember Alex Juan requesting the mayor or his designee to install traffic calming devices at the western ends of both Orme Street Circle Northeast and Elmwood Drive Northeast in order to reduce speeding and for other purposes. Mr. Chair, this item needs to be substituted. The substitute just makes multiple revisions throughout the legislation as requested by the law department. It does not change the caption, excuse me.
Second. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. Substitute before you.
Second. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. Item is favorable on substitute.
Before we move forward, going back to item number 1325-R-3454, just for the record, we held it. We did not amend it, so when we bring it back up in the next meeting, make sure we amend it.
So we substituted, Mr. Chair.
You did? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, all right. One of the authors brought it to my attention. Okay, good. We go forward.
Mr. Chair, there is no objection from the committee. Can we take items number 15 and 16 together to block? These will need to be substituted to add some revisions throughout the caption and the legislation.
Go ahead.
And we have a motion to bring forth a substitute.
Oh. Motion been made and second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The substitute is brought before you for both items. Item number 15, 25R-3461, a resolution by Councilmember Jason H. Winston as substituted by Transportation Committee, requesting the mayor or his designee to install stop signs at the intersections of Sydney Street Southeast and Royalist Street Southeast and Sydney Street Southeast and Oakland Avenue Southeast to create always stop control intersections and for the purposes. Item number 1625R-3462, a resolution by Councilmember Jason H. Winston and substituted by Transportation Committee, requesting the mayor or his designee to install stop signs at the intersection of Crumley Street Southeast and Fraser Street Southeast to create an always stop control intersection and for other purposes.
Second. Motion been made and second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. These items are favorable on substitute. Item number 17, 25R-3498, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute the Second Amendment to Project Management Agreement with Midtown Business Association Incorporated, doing business as Midtown Alliance, for the Piedmont Avenue Complete Street Project to execute any required agreements for project participation and implementation on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation, amount not to exceed $2 million and 0 cents. All contracted work we charge to and pay from the fund department organization and account number listed herein and for the purposes. Mr. Chair, this item would need to be amended. The amendment attaches Exhibit A.
Second. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The amendment is before you.
Second. Motion been made and second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable as amended. Our last item, item number 1825R3499, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the State of Georgia Department of Transportation on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation for the purpose of the Traffic Signal Operations Program, coordination and for other purposes.
Motion to approve. Motion been made and second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. Mr. Chair, that concludes our legislative items for today.
Thanks, sir. Thank you very much, everybody. Without the presentation, we would have had a 45-minute meeting. Just want to bring attention, it is Transportation Week. That's why we have the nice goodies here. A sandwich bag without a sandwich, but, probably next year. But to all of the hardworking men and women in ADL-DOT, thank you very much. We stand adjourned. Right.